Some people believe that Texas Tech's new rebrand is God's gift to earth. Others see it as throw up. Is Houston legit and TCU Heisman-winning quarterback? This is the Dose Grande squad.
You're talking ball with the Big 12 squad. From Oklahoma State to Utah, from Kansas State to BYU, from Houston to Texas Tech, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming Big 12 weekend. Buckle up. It's the Big 12 squad, and we have a seat for you. No hurt feelings and thin skin allowed. Squad up. You're part of the Big 12 squad.
Hola to all of you at home, and thank you for joining the Big 12 squad. Pleasure to be with you. Drake Toll from Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. It's been that kind of week this week. We are welcomed with the journalist, the true journalist he is, all the way from Lubbock, Texas, Chris Level. He's the only thing that's there. Cody Stovall lives at Stillwater, Oklahoma, or close enough at least. Hosts Locked On Oklahoma State. G. Westerfield of Locked On. It's just not good wine. $6.
How's it going? Wow, yeah.
Oh, not going to do it for you, JT Westerfield of Locked On Utes. He's got to do for segment number 2, but he's drinking it in segment number 1 so that we can have some fun. Mountaineer Paul of Locked On West Virginia. Parker Ainsworth hosts Locked On Cougs. If a Houston Cougar loses, but no one's watching, does it actually count? Darian Gray, they call him the mouth of the South. Locked On Horned Frogs, all things TCU. And Kevin
Play his music.
If you get bonus points for losing by 1 score, man, Kevin Borba would be undefeated in the bonus points category. This is the Big 12 squad. Thanks for making our shows your first listen every single day. Chris Level. They took the bevel, they took the double T bevel, and they said, let's strip it down as much as possible and make it the old school, classic, traditional logo. From what I've seen, Texas Tech fans love it. Every other fan base in the Big 12 seems to think that it's borderline throw up. Yeah. Also, Maravets of Locked On Cyclones is here. He's not going to say anything.
Do Tech fans really love it, or they feel compelled to say they love it?
No, I think overwhelmingly they love it. Not it's not 100%. They're not going to do anything, but yeah, this was well received for the most part locally, and I've seen a lot of chatter out there, but I really wasn't. It wasn't for everybody else. It was more for your fan base, I guess. This was my favorite logo, so it's what I grew up with.
This was. And I'm sure I like it personally because I love a good throwback logo. And it feels like Texas Tech has gone back to the throwback. However, I'm sure they paid between $3 and $5 million to some PR firm for the rebrand. And it's just the red tee with a black outline. They really couldn't have dumbed it down much more.
Yeah, I don't know what they would have paid because they were all their logos from before. I do know they paid a lot of money 26 years ago for what is now going away, and that frustrated everybody. Like, what are we doing to screw up our logo with all these bevels and all this stuff? But I didn't know that everybody would have such an opinion on a logo. But hey, man, that's where we are.
Why is it timing now?
Right,
Why
they
now?
didn't pay for nothing. They got that out of clip art or something.
Yeah,
the paint pad.
But there's a variety of different logos. But
it is.
That's the basic. They did it right now because they wanted to give a heads up to retailers. Adidas was involved with this. And they're doing some things with their facilities that were going to take some time, and it's homecoming this weekend, so this is what their reasoning was on why they wanted to release it now. But yeah, I mean, I didn't even know we were going to talk logos, but here we are.
It's homecoming I thought homecoming was last week's game where they were a majority of the fans in Houston. I thought that was them coming home where many of them live in the place of black gold. Parker, here's the deal though. If I've learned anything from Utah fans, losing by a lot of points to Texas Tech makes you the second best team in the Big 12. So you are right on track.
It's the exact same difference, and our quarterback actually got hurt. So that's a whole separate thing. I was actually talking on the logos, though. Houston dropped the beveling in 2017. And, Chris, you just got to be ready for the next 8 years. People are going to use it anyway in random marketing things you're not ready for. Like the school will get it right, but other people are going to get it wrong for at least a decade, it looks like.
Yeah, I'm sure that they will, yes.
I think I still use the bevel in all of the stuff that I use for Houston as well. By the way. My bad.
Yeah. Speaking of.
Yeah. Let's go there, though. I do think, Chris, we have established that Texas Tech, and I mentioned it on my show this week, Texas Tech's the best team in the Big 12, and it might not be close. You face two what I think to be pretty good, if not great, Big 12 defenses in Utah. You're welcome, JT. And Houston. and Texas Tech has just kind of run through both of them.
I don't agree with that.
That hurt.
Great, awesome.
Yeah,
you host Locked On.
I
You can agree with it.
I don't agree with it. However, I think if they go 2-0 in the next 2 weeks, because I think that's a big game in Salt Lake Saturday night. I think it's a really big game. I think, and I've said this before, and you guys have heard me say this. This is still Arizona State's league. They're undefeated in the league. And I think they have played two really good teams too. And I know that you cue the Baylor jokes and all that, but that's still a tough place to go win. They beat TCU when they
why
didn't
is
look
it a
their
tough place
best.
to go win?
It wasn't this past weekend. Because everybody left. I don't understand where were the fans in Waco.
It was so hot. It was way too hot, obviously.
Okay, yeah, it's but I if you were to beat Arizona State, I would feel comfortable saying that you've now crossed a lot of your hurdles. But short of that, I still think this is Arizona State's deal. So we'll see. But 2-0 in the next 2 weeks, and I would tend to agree.
Wait, why isn't Nick objecting? He was last week. Did something happen? Was there a disappointing loss? Did I miss him?
Yes.
And Cincinnati's sneaky good. I saw that movie.
They are.
What I say last week? What I say last week? The Arizona State of this year.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that movie up close last year in Lubbock, and Texas Tech beat them 44-41. The majority of those guys are back. They go into Kansas and beat them without Corleone. Joe Royer didn't even play the most. I mean, that's an NFL tight end, and I think Sorsby is very underrated. So, they're going to be a handful if they can continue to run the ball the way that they do.
Big Citrus versus Corleone. Who wins? Ditka.
We Corleone this week.
I have a real question.
Oh. As opposed to a fake one.
Anybody other than Texas Tech or BYU representing the Big 12 moving forward, anybody other than that would be kind of a disaster because Arizona State did lose to Mississippi State. That's going to be a black eye. That's perception-wise not viewed positively on the Big 12. Cincinnati, we're talking about them. They look good, but they lost to Nebraska, which is not exactly a heavy hitter in the Big 10. So if those are some of the schools that move on to represent the Big 12 post Arlington, I think that from a national perception angle is probably problematic.
Yes. If you are a fan of a team who sucks right now, UCF or Oklahoma State, West Virginia, hello, Paul. Good to see you. Very nice to have you. If you're a fan of a team that's not playing very well, and you want the Big 12 to beef itself up, to be in a good position next season, where the more that you win, you're winning in a legit conference. It is imperative that your undefeated stay alive. I mention it on my show all the time. It's like Santa Claus. Tim Allen murders Santa Claus, like cold blood. Santa's dead. Tim Allen becomes Santa Claus. Once you start winning in this league, like BYU and Texas Tech, the more you win, you get to stay old St. Nick. The country's talking about you. Even I think the only exception is Iowa State losing to Cincinnati. It gives the Big 12 access to possibly another ranked team, and Iowa State can still finish 10-2 with Cincinnati at 11-1 or 10-2, and Texas Tech and BYU or even Utah up at the top of the conference. I think the more that your better teams win, the better it is for the league. And last weekend, you saw that. No bad team upset a good or borderline good team in this league. We need more of that to become legitimate.
Yeah, I would echo that because I think if you lose to another good conference team, it actually might validate the conference in a weird way. It's like, hey, they're your playoff representative, and there was a team that beat them in that conference.
Right.
People have already told me several times in my comments, Chris, I don't know if you've heard, last year Texas Tech beat Arizona State, and they won the conference and went on to represent pretty well, right? I think that people kind of forget about that because of how magical the Cam Scatabo thing was and all the one-score games. But, like, they weren't undefeated in the conference, and they went on, and people did seem to be like, oh, this team is very good, right? And I think that if it's a team with a conference loss to another good conference team, it helps us in a lot of ways.
Well, the conference
we talked
angle,
about that all last year hurting
I
us,
was
though.
talking outside of conference.
Well, what about TCU? Obviously not necessarily a world beater, but they looked good in the first half against Arizona State before everything crumbled, and then they've got a win against SMU and UNC in dominant fashion. So don't sleep on them. I'm not saying
that.
Got a
new guy, Nick.
2 out of the conference wins,
Can't wait for that Hulu doc on UNC.
I just have a question, though, Parker and Drake. Didn't we all talk about last year how bad it was for the Big 12 to beat up on each other? And now we're saying we want that?
Sure. No. We don't want that. That's coming up next. Locked on Big 12, the Big 12 squad. Hey, ad break. Today's show is brought to you by Supply House. Look, I got my first house in September, and it was a fixer-upper. Still kind of is a fixer-upper, but the only reason that there have been such great improvements so fast is due to Supply House. Supply House is exactly where I go to feel like the professional repairman. There's HVAC, plumbing, electrical items, the most trusted brands in the business. Real-time inventory, honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service is top-notch. Need parts? Fast project? Supply House. Next day delivery. That's a game changer. Join for free with their free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, dedicated support line. Supplyhouse.com to sign up for free. Use promo code SHCollege5, all caps SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. Supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. That's all at supplyhouse.com. Today's show is also brought to you by, of course it is, FanDuel. FanDuel is exactly where I go to win money. If there's one thing that I like, it's the M word. And when money rolls into my pocket, because at FanDuel, I can go in right now and say that TCU is going to beat Kansas State on the road. They're 1.5-point favorites, and I can take that all day long. I'm a happy camper. And FanDuel right now is giving you a great deal. This NFL season and college football season, put $5 down. If your bet wins, FanDuel gives you $300. $300 in bonus bets if that $5 hits. Unlock those $300 right now. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. FanDuel.com. Download that app today as easy as boop, boop, boop on the old cellular device, and bam, you're there with FanDuel. Visit FanDuel. Do it today. Wonderful point, Kevin Borba. Thank you very much. I've locked on bust. Boop, boop, boop. Last season, so a parody's fun. And Brett Yormark mentioned it at Big 12 Media Days. He's like, hey, it's fun when we all beat each other and you don't ever know if TCU will beat Houston, or if Houston will lose to UCF, or if Arizona State falls to Cincinnati like we did last year. But it doesn't sell. It doesn't give you viewership. What we need, the ideal situation for Brett Yormark, is for 8 teams in this league to go 12-0 and 8 teams to go 0-12. That'd be the beauty of it. Is now you've got some elite teams at the time. You mentioned the Big 12 Media. It's hyperbolic, right? But at Big 12 Media Days, he said, we need 2 or 3 teams to emerge as the elite, a la Florida State, Clemson, Miami. That's what the Big 12 needs here. So if Iowa State or Utah, BYU, or even Arizona is still alive in this, TCU could, if these teams could step up and be 1-loss teams, 10-win teams, 11-win teams, the Big 12 needs a couple of those to have multiple squads in the college football playoff and prove we can play at the top of college football, not just Texas Tech.
Yeah, I also think that last year was kind of the extreme where you had 4 7-2 teams and 3 6-3 teams.
9 teams the last weekend. 9 could have been the Big 12 title game.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that much parity. I'm talking about like 3 teams that are kind of all dancing for it is a whole lot different than like 9, right? That's a very different calculus.
I don't think you want, like you said, like 8 teams going 0-12. I understand what you're saying, but I also think having basically 8 Vanderbilts of old, not the current Vanderbilt, is not good for any league.
Listen, guys, we're going to be the sacrificial lamb to help everybody get to the win totals they need.
There's one of those 0-8 teams right there.
There they go.
Yeah. We're here for you. Okay.
Thank you for your service to our country.
One other
Cody.
thing about all the coaches.
Hey, you don't, no, Borba, you don't get to say that. You do not get to say you are you're in that same category there.
We might be hopping on that. We'll see you in Valhalla, Cody. We'll see.
Oh, now
you
you're
guys.
making hopping jokes. You're making hopping jokes. Okay, I see where this is going.
Hey, soak it all in. As good as
We've got
BYU is, soak it all in.
that are in year 2 of their tenure or less, right? So I think there's a big flip-flop of tenured guys. I mean, Gundy just got fired, but I mean, if you look at it, you've got Whittingham 21st year, Satake 10th year, Campbell 10th year, Kleiman 7th year, Aranda 6th year, Leopold 5th year. I just think that there's a bunch.
Really, Fritz 2nd year.
We need a few of these guys to, like, obviously we've got 5 teams that are in year 2 or less. So I don't know if the parity is going to come maybe for another year or 2, unless some people start getting better quick.
Yeah, we don't need it to an extent. You know, it's tough. Like the SEC has built its whole deal on Alabama being good every year, Georgia being good every year, LSU being good perennially.
Do we have to be the same?
If we want to win at the top of college football, yes. If we want to make money, yes. I love watching TCU Cincinnati duke out in an unranked game where both teams are 5-2, and you're looking at 2 solidly coached squads that are gritty. America doesn't. They're not turning on Fox Sports 1. Like, they're not seeing that every weekend. That is the problem.
We need our Oregon basically to happen.
I think when it comes to parity, you need to have a star. Like, you need somebody at the top that everybody says that's a good team. You need to have a couple of teams that are close to that level because once you start having a few teams that nationwide get respect, then it begins to kind of trickle down. Then when you begin to lose a couple of games, it's like, well, you're losing because that conference is tough. The SEC gets to have losses where it's you lose because the SEC is tough. You lose in the Big 12, a lot of times people dismiss it as, yeah, no, you can't have X amount of losses and still be considered a playoff team. So I think that's the difference when it comes to parity between the conferences, really.
I think plenty of guys in here can attest too. We had that with Oklahoma. Honestly, we kind of had it with Texas. Even when they sucked, you beat a brand. Thank you, Paul.
Why is it got to be the fat guy?
I think it's funny. You think there's only one fat guy on the screen.
It's with Texas, you could beat them when they sucked and you still beat Texas. There was some allure to this. There was this, you've beaten a brand. It's a big brand in college football. Same way when you today get to beat Nebraska. When Northwestern,
basically everything that's wrong with the sport.
Right. When Northwestern's 11-1 or 9-3, as they've been in the past 10 years, a couple of times have been good, and they beat Nebraska. It's this wild thing that Northwestern beat. When TCU would whip Texas year in and year out under Gary Patterson, it was, that little school is beating the 5-7 Texas Longhorns. It didn't make any sense. And so when Texas Tech, it didn't happen very often, when they beat Oklahoma, when a Kansas State would beat Oklahoma, that was the marquee game. You can count it as now you're legitimate because you beat Oklahoma.
Yep.
That's what.
What now?
So, I mean, do you not think we're going to lose these teams if they establish themselves at this?
I don't think we'll. No, I don't think we'll lose them. I believe, unless it's Utah, they'll go to the Big Ten.
Utah go to the Big Ten for less money, just to say they did it.
Oh, for sure, no doubt.
Maybe being mediocre is our superpower.
That's where the ACC feels like it is now. Is the good teams in the ACC want to get out, and the Big 12 lacks a true superpower. So the Big 12 has continuity. The Big 12 has cohesion, and ultimately, cohesion is what's keeping the Big 12 out of the conversation for what the SEC and the Big 10 are getting at the top of college football.
I mean, you nail it.
Well, okay, can I go a step further? And this is where I've mentioned this on my show. And I look, you can berate it all you want. Be like, hey, this guy talks about Texas Tech and BYU a ton, or Utah. I mean, I talk about Utah quite a bit as well.
You do.
And it's because those three schools, by and large, right now, are bringing the viewership.
It's because we like making fun of Utah, Drake.
Colorado in that 4-hole, we understand Colorado and Deion Sanders are like Deion Sanders is the entity that is making Colorado a viewership experience that America wants. Outside of that, BYU is because of a religious affiliation. Texas Tech is because a large fan base, but also they're now the investment. People will like to see the investment. Utah for historic and premier winning the last 25 years. So those are the schools that bring in the viewership right now. West Virginia also in that category as a brand that people loved 15 years ago. But right now, it's Colorado, BYU, Utah, and Texas Tech. The more they win, the more the Big 12 wins. Because I can guarantee you if tomorrow Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, Arkansas are the top 3 ranked teams in the SEC, they're losing viewership in the SEC. It's all a brand game here. So the Big 12 needs its biggest brands at the very top of the conference. And look, and I mentioned this. Now, here's I'll hit an ad break. I'm passionate about this topic, actually. We need Clemson, Locked On Big 12 Squad. Today's rant is brought to you by Mazda. And I love Mazda because it's this Japanese craftsmanship that is mixed with such passion and pride. And it's the same thing that we see out of our collegiate athletes every single week, delivering confidence with every ride, more IIHS top safety picks than anyone else in America. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you've made every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Visit a Mazda, test drive a Mazda, see a Mazda today. Today's show is also brought to you by Quo, formerly Open Phone. Look, Quo is going to keep money in your pocket. It's a great opportunity for you to never miss a phone call. You need a phone system if you're a business owner that keeps you connected 24/7. If those are going dead or going to a voicemail and you can't have anybody answer it, you could be losing out on possible money. Number one business phone system that streamlines customer communication, works right through an app on your phone or computer, and it connects all your employees. Whoever you want to could answer the phone night and day and say, hey, it's me. And an AI-generated agent is a game changer, can answer after-hour calls for you and capture those leads. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly Open Phone. Get started. QUO.com/LockedOnCollege for your first 6 months, 20% off. QUO.com/LockedOnCollege. First 6 months, 20% off. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers with Quo. All right, Level. I'd like to start with you here. I think so. Clemson, 20 years ago, no one gave a rat's ass. They didn't care. Clemson wasn't a thing. They had won a national championship in the 90s. Ken Hatfield, I think, maybe Danny Ford. And after that, they go away. They're not a good brand. They're firing coaches. In that context, anyone can be a Clemson. If for 10 years you win 2 national championships and go to 5 college football playoffs, America's watching you. America's talking about you. Oklahoma State could be this. Utah could be this. TCU, West Virginia, Texas Tech, Houston. But it takes winning at an elite level. We've proven Virginia Tech did this for that 10-year run under Beamer, where America was like, oh, wow, Virginia Tech. Now they're irrelevant. If for 10 seasons you are winning at a consistent rate, Chris Level, I think the Big 12 can build its own Clemsons via schools like what Texas Tech is doing right now.
Well, I mean, that's going to require a bunch of conference championships by somebody. You're right. And I think that's the knock on the Big 12 right now is that it's anybody's league. And there's not Oklahoma, as you mentioned, it was kind of their league for a while. And they won it, like 8 out of 10 years, something like that in that one stretch. And then you've had the last 3 or 4 years where there's 2 different teams playing for the league championship in a row in the last, 3 or 4 years, I guess. And I don't know if you can, because this is new to BYU. This is new to Texas Tech. Texas Tech hasn't won an outright conference championship since the 50s. They've won 2 conference games this year to this point. Yeah, I mean, so this is all new. I know what you're trying to do. I know that it is, like, I think to Darian's point, if you have an alpha or a couple of alphas that everybody recognizes and everybody is chasing and comparing yourself to, I think that in a way can be very good for a league, especially if it's nationally known that they are the alphas. But you've got to go earn that. You've got to go win, I think, multiple conference championships. And you guys were talking about Arizona State a while ago. I think that the Mississippi State loss, in some ways, if they have a really good year in the Big 12, I don't think the Mississippi State loss really hurts them. Maybe they don't get in that large, but I think they're kind of a made man in certain extent because of Kenny Dillingham. He brought a lot of that roster back, and because they played Texas so well last year.
Yeah. Well, you guys all the time don't like how much credit that Utah gets, and a lot of it just being preseason hype, right? But they earn that by winning 2 conference championships at a P4, P5 level, right? Like that's what it gave to Utah, and I think that's why a lot of people thought Utah could go into the Big 12 and have more success than they have so far. So winning does get you a lot.
Utah could have been Clemson. I mean, they were close to that in the Pac-12 by beating up on your perennial power. Like Clemson got it by beating the Miamis of the world.
They need to win national titles, but yeah.
I think the closest team to being Clemson is Texas Tech, and it's because they're going to be recruiting at an elite level, right? If you look at who wins championships,
I would disagree.
Win championships.
I think
the blue chip ratio
here,
says you have to have 50% or more of your roster be 4 or 5-star players.
Sure, but I'm with Level here saying I think Arizona State, if they won the Big 12 this year, win 11-1, they are now closer to Clemson if they start winning playoff. We need the teams. We need Arizona State to win 8 of 10.
But to Borba's point, that's really what's going to separate these teams is like a level of recruiting, especially with big people. And that's what, I mean, you just look at Clemson and all the schools we're talking about here. Their lines of scrimmage really are different than what they're surrounded by. Look at Miami this year. I mean, Miami's trenches are just dominating.
That guy's ridiculous.
I mean, and it's
Well, look at you guys. Texas Tech's defensive line is crazy. A bunch of NFL level dudes. It's crazy to watch.
It is.
So I do think that when talking about TV eyes, Texas Tech for the moment has something, and BYU has the church. I think Drake does a good job of talking about how they have a different representation, but people watch Texas Tech because it feels like this gigantic experiment right now. Where hey, in modern college football, some millionaires throw a bunch of money in and let's see if this works in a way that, as Chris pointed out, doesn't have a lot of tradition. There's not a whole lot of legacy of winning at Texas Tech. It's got great fans and all that, and it's got a long history of.
It's a proof of concept. There's no doubt about it.
And there's interest in is this actually going to work? And I think that. Even if that might fade away in 2 or 3 years if it doesn't, but that certainly seems to be sparked even if they haven't won yet in a way that Arizona State doesn't have the same spark in a lot of ways.
They put every team in the Big 12 on notice. If you want to get to a top 5 level, you may not have to spend Texas Tech money, but you got to get somewhat close, at least occasionally.
I don't feel
Well,
like
I
the
think if
average fan is
Texas
watching Tech just because this experiment really quick. I think they're watching them more than anything because of how good they are and how good of a chance they have to be this year. I feel like the average fan doesn't know about the NIL level
Yeah,
that they're spending.
The average fan is kind of like Texas Tech's money is being thrown around in like everyone's face in a way, just because you watch the game and it's like Texas Tech spent 70 million, whatever the amount.
And I would say
I think people are interested in that. Like I think people
here's
are
what
interested in non-traditional power being in that conversation with Texas and other schools. And so
Indiana,
I think the better Texas Tech does, the more people will watch. But I do think the money plays
It's amazing that nobody else's money gets brought up.
Well,
on
no,
any other
but
program in the
it's
country.
a school that no one expected.
Shocking to me,
It's a
actually.
school that no one
Yeah,
expected.
what's Ohio State?
from the
What's
outside.
Ohio State paying these days?
Yeah. Oregon.
I would
Oregon.
almost push back on that a little bit in my own point and say 20% of watching for the storyline, 80% of watching for the number next to your name.
Yeah,
it's always sexier when it's the number 9 team versus the number 16 team.
Now
If that's Indiana versus Rutgers, I'm turning it on because I'm like, wow.
It took Texas Tech like 6 weeks to get a top 10 ranking, which
No
is
doubt.
disrespectful.
But the second you have, like, we're always like, oh, AP votes don't matter. Just, go win the games. They do matter because the country wants to watch number 8 US. Let's go back to 07. Number 8 USF versus number 2 Hawaii.